Hello peoples of the internet, I'm Mo, and I'm back today with another Top 5 Wednesday video. As always, Top 5 Wednesday was created by Lainey from gingerreadslainey, whose channel and the Goodreads group are down in the description box. So the topic for today is suggested books that you loved, so books that were recommended to you and you ended up really liking them. So I have picked out 5 books and I'm going to share about them as well as about where I got those recommendations from. So the first book that I have to talk about is this one, Sorcery and Cecilia, or The Enchanted Chocolate Pot, and this was suggested to me by my mother because she is awesome. And this is by Patricia C. Reed and Carolyn Stevermer, and it is a Regency-era historical fantasy novel, and it's also an epistolary novel, so it's written as letters being sent back and forth between these two main characters about their adventures and what's going on, and there are wizards and spells and all sorts of things going on that they have to try to save the day, essentially, and it's a lot of fun. The next book that I have to share with you guys is The Grey Horse, and this was recommended to me on a blog that I read, actually. This book is also a historical fantasy novel. It's set in 19th century Ireland, and it deals with this small town and the sorts of things that are happening there and the effect that this fairy who shows up has on the citizens of this town. I really enjoyed this and it made my top books of the year video for last year, so if you'd like to hear more about it, I will link that video down below. This was recommended, like I said, by someone on a blog. Heidi is a folklorist, and so she runs a site and a blog all about fairy tales and folklore, and I really enjoy both of them. And she did a post, or a few posts possibly, a while back about this book saying that it was one of her favorites, so I decided to pick it up and I really enjoyed it as well. So if you would like to check her out, I will leave links to her blog and website down below as well. The next book that I have to share with you guys is The Squires Tales by Gerald Morris. This book was actually recommended to me by Goodreads, like a whole bunch of times on those little side, like, recommendy things, or on, if you actually click on the recommendations page. And after it had been recommended to me by Goodreads quite a number of times, I decided to pick it up, and I really enjoyed it. This is the first book in a series of Arthurian retellings. They're middle grade, and they follow the Knights of the Round Table, and they're just wonderful. I've read the first 8 out of the 10 books, and I hopefully will be finishing that series up this year. The next book that I have to share with you guys today is Enchantment by Orson Scott Card, and this is a fairy tale retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but it's set in Russia and America, and there's time travel, and it's told from the point of view of the prince character instead of from the princess, and it's just really interesting. Also, there are some sort of characters from Russian folklore that are also included in this novel. I really enjoyed it, and this one was recommended to me on a podcast that I listen to, which is Writing Excuses. So if you've not heard of Writing Excuses, you should totally go check it out. It is Brandon Sanderson, Mary Robinette Cole, Dan Wells, and Howard Taylor, and they all get together and they talk about writing and books and genre fiction, and it's wonderful. And their podcast is sponsored by Audible, so every week one of them will pick a book to recommend that happens to have an Audible audiobook version of it. So it's their choice of books, but also an advertisement at the same time. So you get to hear about books that they like every week, which is pretty awesome, and I will link them down below as well. Alright, and the last book that I have to share with you guys today is The Napoleon of Notting Hill by G.K. Chesterton. This was recommended to me by a friend of mine, and it's a little bit hard to describe what it's about, but I'm going to give it a go here. So this is sort of an alternate England in which all of the political offices, instead of being elected or you're born into it, are sort of done by lottery. So every time somebody in that office dies, they just kind of randomly pick out of that area who's going to be the next person. And so this guy randomly gets picked to be king, and he's not terribly serious about it, and he's just sort of misusing his powers as king for his own amusement, and in a sense playing dress up with his subjects. And he sort of divides London up into these different sections, and it's all works out okay, if a little bit ridiculously at first, until one of his subjects actually starts taking seriously all of this ridiculous stuff that he's done, and the suburbs of London get into a war with each other, and it's hilarious, and it's really thought-provoking, and it's really a wonderful book. It was recommended to me by a friend, but in a bit of an odd circumstance, because we were at the Renaissance Festival, and as she was looking around at different people in costume, because it was the first time she had gone, she said, "It just reminds me of the Napoleon of Notting Hill." And I'm like, what? And so then she told me about this book, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I read it, and I really enjoyed it. So this is a classic. It's a little bit older. If you've not heard of it, I definitely recommend it. And yeah, those are my 5 books that I had to share with you guys today. Let me know what books that you've read that were recommended to you that you ended up really enjoying, and I will see you guys next time.